It was just a regular Friday night dinner in our house in Cary, North Carolina. I'm Greer Patterson, 18. We were cutting into ribeye when Dad set his knife down and looked straight at me. Greer, we've used most of your college fund for your brother's European honeymoon and the down payment on his new house. The room went quiet except for the clock on the wall. Mom didn't even blink. She reached over and touched Dad's arm, then said calm as anything, "Your brother deserves this more. You'll understand someday." I felt the words hit harder than any shout could have. 90%. Gone. Just like that. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't throw a plate. I finished my bite, put my fork down, and looked at both of them. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at my desk and started planning the one thing they never expected me to do. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because what I did next destroyed everything they spent years building. You won't want to miss it. Growing up in one of those perfect subdivisions south of Raleigh, everything looked polished from the outside. Manicured lawns, 3-car garages, kids riding new bikes to the community pool. That was Cary, North Carolina, and that was us. My name is Greer Patterson, 18. Dad Vernon runs regional operations for a software company that supplies half the hospitals in the state. He pulls in good money enough for the leased Lexus in the driveway and the country club membership he never uses. Mom Lois sells real estate part-time, mostly high-end listings, and spends the rest of her days organizing charity galas nobody really needs. Then there's Ridge, 27, my only sibling. From the time he could walk, he was the son everything revolved around. Little League MVP high school quarterback with a full-ride offer to UNC, the son who could do no wrong. These days, he closes 6-figure deals in enterprise sales, wears tailored suits on weekdays, and still gets called coach by half the guys in town. 6 months ago, he put a ring on Tatum Brooks' blonde ambitious works in marketing for a luxury home builder. They post engagement photos in front of waterfalls like it's their full-time job. Me, I've always been the background character. Not because I'm shy, I'm not, but because I learned early that attention in our house only came with strings. Ridge got the loud celebrations, the new trucks at 16, the my son, the star stories at every barbecue. I got told to keep my grades up and stay out of the way. So I did both. Straight A's without posting about it, AP classes, scholarships I actually applied for myself. At 16, I started pouring coffee at the Starbucks on Tryon Road before school, then waited tables Friday and Saturday nights at a steakhouse off Weston Parkway. Cash tips went straight into a savings account I opened alone. By senior year, I had $23,000 saved, real money I earned with sore feet and burnt fingers. I was aiming for mechanical engineering at NC State. Co-op program paid internships, graduate debt-free. I even had spreadsheets, tuition projections, housing costs, scholarship deadlines, everything mapped out. The one piece I never worried about was the trust fund. Grandpa Walter, Dad's father, died when I was 7. He'd spent 40 years as an engineer at IBM back when that campus was the center of the universe around here. Retired, comfortable, invested wisely. Before he passed, he set up individual trusts for both grandkids. Same starting amount, professionally managed, locked, until we turned 18, or started post-secondary education, whichever came first. Dad was trustee. Whenever I asked, he'd wave me off with the same line, "It's more than enough for a full ride anywhere in-state, Greer. Stop stressing." Mom would nod along. "Focus on your grades, honey. We've got the money handled." I believed them. Why wouldn't I? They'd never lied about anything big before. Ridge's fund paid for his undergrad completely, plus the lifted Tacoma he totaled sophomore year and the study abroad semester in Spain. Dad always said mine was growing even faster because I wasn't touching it early. I pictured low-risk index funds compounding quietly for a decade and a half. 6 figures easy, maybe 7 if the market had been kind. So I kept grinding. Double shifts when someone called out, picked up extra sections at the restaurant, studied in the break room between lattes. I turned down beach week senior year because I didn't want to blow $4,000 on a house at Emerald Isle. Ridge had done 3 of those weeks on family money and never once offered to chip in for mine. That was just how it worked. I knew the exact date I'd gain access. The trust matured the month I started classes. I'd already been accepted to state deposited for fall, signed up for orientation. All I needed was the final number to lock in housing and declare my major without loans. Looking back, the signs were there. The way Mom started bragging about Ridge's upcoming wedding before he even proposed. Dad casually mentioning they'd helped with the ring 4 carats custom setting. Tatum dropping hints about a 6-week honeymoon and starting married life in the right neighborhood. I heard it all and filed it away as background noise. Rich people talk. My brother had always been their rich people story. I never imagined the money they were spending was mine. That Friday we were halfway through ribeye when Dad set his fork down and cleared his throat the way he does before quarterly reviews at work. "Greer, your mom and I need to talk to you about the trust fund." Ridge was sitting across from me, cutting his steak into perfect squares, smirking like he already knew the punchline. Tatum sat next to him, legs crossed, phone face down on the table for once. Dad didn't look at me when he kept going. "We've transferred most of it to help Ridge and Tatum get started right after the wedding. The honeymoon in Europe, the down payment on the house in Preston, they needed it now. Most of it." I felt the words land heavy, but I kept my face blank. Mom jumped in before I could open my mouth. "Ridge just closed that huge contract at work, honey. This is an investment in all our futures. When you're older and settled, you'll have help too." I stared at my plate. The baked potato had gone cold. Dad rubbed the back of his neck. "We left enough for community college the first year or 2. After that, we'll figure something out." I finally spoke. One sentence. Calm. "How much is left?" Dad glanced at Mom, then back at his hands. $11,800, give or take. $11,800, out of what should have been well over $200,000. Mom reached across the table like she was going to pat my hand, but I moved it first. "You have to understand," she said, voice soft. "Ridge is the one carrying the family name forward right now. Tatum's family expects a certain standard." Ridge finally looked up. "It's not like you were using it yet, Greer. Chill." Tatum gave a tiny laugh, then covered it with a sip of water. I pushed my chair back. The scrape against the hardwood sounded louder than it should have. Mom's eyes widened. "Sit down. We're not finished." But I was. I walked straight past them, up the stairs and into my room. Closed the door. Turned the lock. Leaned my back against it and listened. Downstairs, Mom started talking fast, defensive, the same tone she uses with difficult clients. Dad said something low I couldn't make out. Ridge laughed again, louder, like the whole thing was a joke that just landed. I stood there for a long time, breathing, slow, feeling the anger settle into something colder. They thought the conversation was over because I walked away. They were wrong. The following Sunday, while they were all at church, I went straight to Dad's office. The door was unlocked like always. I knew exactly where he kept the important stuff, bottom drawer of the oak filing cabinet behind the hanging folders labeled Taxes 2018 and Warranty Manuals. I pulled the drawer open and started flipping. 15 minutes in, I found it, a thick manila folder marked Walter Patterson Trusts, 2005. Inside were 2 separate trust agreements, one for Ridge, one for me. I took mine out first. The cover page laid it out: plain, irrevocable educational trust, principal and income, to be used solely for qualified higher education expenses. Any distribution outside those terms required court approval or written consent of the beneficiary after age 18. Dad had signed as trustee. Grandpa Walter's notary stamp sat right below. I laid the pages on the carpet and photographed every single one with my phone, 62 pages total, front and back. Then I opened the attached bank statements. The balance in January had been $231,412. By April, after a series of large transfers labeled family assistance, it was down to 11,827. I kept scrolling. Buried in the folder was a printed email chain Dad had apparently saved. Top message was from Tatum to Mom, dated 18 months earlier. Subject: house down payment timing. Lois the builder is holding the lot in Preston until end of month. We're short about $180K after the ring. Just pull from Greer's college fund. She won't notice for years, and by then, Ridge will be making way more to replace it. Easier than asking the bank for a bigger loan. Thanks, Mom's replied 2 minutes later. Already taken care of, sweetheart. Vernon is handling transfers this week. I stared at the screen until the words stopped swimming. There were more screenshots of Zelle transfers from the trust account to Ridge's personal checking, then, immediately to the title company. Another batch to a travel agency in Charlotte for the honeymoon deposit, $92,000 wired, the same day Ridge got his annual bonus. I sat cross-legged on the floor and built a spreadsheet right there on my laptop. Columns for date, amount, payee, memo. Rows filled fast, 37 separate withdrawals over 14 months. Everyone approved by Dad as trustee. When I finished, the total missing came to $219,585. I saved the file under the name Evidence, final emailed it to myself from a new anonymous Proton Mail account, and uploaded everything to 2 separate cloud drives. Then I put every paper back exactly as I found it, closed the drawer, and walked out. The house was still empty. I made a sandwich. I didn't taste. Sat at the kitchen island and stared at the numbers on my phone until the garage door rumbled 2 hours later. They came in laughing about something the pastor said. Mom called up the stairs, "Greer lunch leftovers if you're hungry." I didn't answer. That night, I lay in bed running scenarios. Loans weren't an option, interest would bury me. Community college first, then transfer, still years behind. And every path still left them thinking they'd face no consequences. By morning, I had decided. They took something that wasn't theirs. I was going to take it back, every single dollar, and make sure they felt it for the rest of their lives. 11 days after that dinner, I walked into a 23rd floor office overlooking Fayetteville Street in downtown Raleigh. The receptionist led me past glass walls and expensive art to a corner conference room. Malcolm Reed was already waiting, late 40s, gray suit, no smile, reading glasses halfway down his nose. I'd found him through a trust litigation forum nobody in my family would ever think to look at. I didn't sit right away. I opened my backpack, pulled out 2 thick printed binders, and slid them across the table. "Everything's in order," I said. "Trust document, bank records, emails, transfer logs, timeline." He flipped the first binder open, scanned the cover page, then the withdrawal spreadsheet. 10 minutes of silence while he turned pages. When he finally looked up, his expression hadn't changed, but his voice carried weight. "Your father committed textbook breach of fiduciary duty. The emails from your future sister-in-law make this unjust enrichment for her and your brother as well. North Carolina courts do not play nice with trustees who treat educational trusts like personal piggy banks." He closed the binder. "We can get it all back, plus interest, plus punitive if the judge feels like sending a message. Question is, are you ready to sue your parents, your brother, and his fiancée?" I didn't hesitate. "Yes." He slid a retainer agreement across the table. "Flat fee to start, percentage of recovery after." I signed Greer Patterson on every line without reading twice. 2 days later, he filed in Wake County Superior Court breach of trust against Vernon Patterson as trustee, unjust enrichment against Ridge Patterson and Tatum Brooks. Constructive trust and accounting against all defendants. We requested expedited service. End of July, on a Thursday afternoon, a process server in a polo shirt rang our doorbell while Mom was watering the front planters. Dad opened the door, took the thick envelopes, and went white when he saw the caption, "Greer Patterson v. Vernon Patterson et al." My phone started exploding before the guy reached his car. Ridge first voicemail screaming, "What the hell is wrong with you? You're suing your own family. Drop this now or you're done here." Then 27 missed calls from Mom. Texts rolled in one after another. Greer, please pick up. This will destroy your father. How could you do this to us? We can still fix everything if you stop. I'm begging you. Think of your brother's wedding. I read them in the parking lot of a Target 10 miles from home, volume offhand steady. Dad never called. He just sent one text at 11:47 p.m. Your mother can't stop crying. I hope you're proud of yourself. I didn't reply to any of them. That night, I moved the few things I needed into a cheap extended stay off Capitol Boulevard, paid a month in cash, and forwarded my mail to a private box. Malcolm texted the next morning. They've been served. Clock starts now. Discovery in 30 days. I stared at the message, felt the last thread snap, and for the first time in weeks, I slept without dreaming. By November, the lawyers had every message and transfer they needed. Malcolm's discovery requests hit like a dump truck, phone records, bank logs, cloud backups, even the family group chat going back 3 years. Their side fought some of it, but the judge signed the order. Everything came. Depositions started the week before Thanksgiving in a windowless room on the 9th floor of a building off Glenwood Avenue. Mom Lois Patterson was first. She walked in clutching a wad of tissues, eyes already red. Malcolm started gentle, just dates and signatures. Then he slid the printed email chain across the table. Mrs. Patterson, did you write on March 12th? Already taken care of, sweetheart. Vernon is handling transfers this week. In response to Tatum Brooks asking to use Greer's college fund, Mom's voice cracked right away. She cried for the next 2 hours straight. I only wanted the best for both my children, she kept repeating between sobs. I thought we could replace it later. Ridge was getting married. Greer was still in high school. Every time Malcolm asked about specific amounts, she cried harder. When he asked why she never got Greer's written consent as the trust required after age 18, she just shook her head and whispered, I made a mistake. Tatum went next. She showed up in a navy blazer, 2 sizes too big, hair pulled back tight, no makeup. Looked like she hadn't slept in days. Malcolm put the worst email on the screen, the one where she wrote, just pull from Greer's college fund. She won't notice for years. He let the silence sit for a full 10 seconds. Ms. Brooks, when you wrote she won't notice for years? Were you aware the trust document limits distributions to qualified education expenses only? Tatum opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. I was just trying to help plan the wedding. I didn't know all the legal stuff. Malcolm stayed calm. So you asked your future mother-in-law to move almost $220,000 from an educational trust without reading the trust yourself. She started breathing fast. I thought it was family money. Lois said it would be fine. She kept saying I don't recall to every follow-up until their lawyer finally objected to form for the 40th time. Ridge was last. He strutted in wearing the same cocky half-smile he used on sales calls, sleeves rolled up like this was casual Friday. Malcolm didn't waste time. Mr. Patterson, did you personally receive $183,000 from the trust your grandfather created for your sister's education? Ridge leaned back. My parents helped me start my life. Greer's blowing this out of proportion. Malcolm never raised his voice. Did you ever ask your sister if she agreed to give you that money? Ridge rolled his eyes. She's 18. She lives at home rent-free, drives. Mom's old car, works 2 nothing jobs. She didn't need it yet. Malcolm slid over bank records showing the exact transfers into Ridge's account the same week he closed on the house. So you believe your sister should have no say in whether her own trust is emptied for your honeymoon and mortgage? Ridge leaned forward, voice rising for the first time. She's tearing this family apart over money she never earned. That's what this is. Dad sat through his entire deposition almost silent. Answered yes or no when required, stared at the table the rest of the time. Only spoke once, unprompted, so low the court reporter asked him to repeat it. I thought I was keeping everyone happy. When it was over, Malcolm gathered the transcripts and looked at me across the table. They just handed us the case on a silver platter, he said. Trial's in April. They don't have a defense. I nodded once and walked out without looking back. The following April, the hallway outside the courtroom smelled like floor wax and tension. Wake County Superior Court Courtroom 4C. 3 days scheduled, no jury. Bench trial before Judge Elena Morales, known for cutting straight through family drama. Day 1 was ours. Malcolm laid the foundation, read the 2005 trust aloud word for word, then projected every transfer on the big screen. Red arrows pointed from the trust account to Ridge's checking, then to the builder, then to the travel agency. He never raised his voice once. He didn't need to. The numbers did the shouting. Their lawyer tried to paint it as informal family lending. Malcolm shut that down with the trust language that required court approval for anything outside education. Judge Morales just nodded and made notes. Day 2, they put Mom on the stand. She wore a navy dress and clutched the same tissues from deposition. Their attorney asked soft questions about helping both children equally. Malcolm's cross was surgical. He showed the jury-size screen again, Tatum's email blown up 30 inches tall. Mrs. Patterson, when you replied, already taken care of, to a request to take money explicitly restricted to Greer's education, did you believe you were acting within your duties as a parent or outside the law? Mom looked at me for the first time all week. Her lips trembled. She had no answer. Ridge took the stand next. He wore a cheap suit that didn't fit right anymore. Tie, crooked eyes, bloodshot. Their lawyer tried to make him the victim of an ungrateful sister. Malcolm let him talk for 10 minutes, then dropped the hammer. He played the clip from Ridge's deposition where Ridge said she didn't need it yet. Then Malcolm asked Mr. Patterson, at the time, you accepted $183,000 intended for your sister's education. Had you ever contributed a single dollar of your own money to that trust? Silence. Answer the question. No. Did you ever intend to repay it before being sued? Ridge looked at the judge, then at Dad, then at the floor. No. Tatum went last. She had lost weight. The blazer hung loose. She tried the same I didn't know defense. Malcolm showed the chain where she personally forwarded the builder's wiring instructions to Mom with the note, use Greer's account faster this way. Judge Morales finally spoke for the first time all day. Ms. Brooks' ignorance of a legal document you actively benefited from is not a defense in my courtroom. Closing arguments were short. Malcolm asked for full restitution, compound interest at the legal rate, and punitive damages to deter other trustees from similar conduct. Their lawyer begged for mercy and family reconciliation. Judge Morales recessed for 45 minutes. When we came back, she didn't waste words. Greer Patterson is awarded $219,585 in actual damages, plus 8.75% compound interest from the date of each wrongful distribution. I further award $75,000 in punitive damages jointly and severally against defendants Ridge Patterson and Tatum Brooks, for what can only be described as calculated and callous enrichment at the expense of an educational trust. The court imposes a constructive trust on the Preston property and orders it sold if necessary to satisfy the judgment, costs and attorney fees to plaintiff. She banged the gavel once. Ridge stood up so fast his chair fell backward. Tatum put her head in her hands. Mom started sobbing loud enough for the bailiff to glance over. Dad just stared straight ahead like he hadn't heard a word. Malcolm turned to me, allowed himself half a smile, and said quietly, "It's over." I looked at the four of them one last time. No anger left. Just the cold clarity of a door closing forever. 2 years later, I stood on the stage at NC State in my cap and gown, ranked in the top 5% of the College of Engineering. The sun was bright, the bricks of Reynolds Coliseum warm under my heels, and when they called Greer Patterson summa cum laude, the applause felt like it belonged to someone I used to be. I had paid for every single credit myself. Scholarships I hunted down, co-ops that turned into full-time offers, night classes when I needed them. Not $1 of debt, not one phone call home. The judgment came through 8 months after trial. The Preston house sold at auction for less than they owed once the lien hit title. Ridge and Tatum lasted 15 months of marriage before the papers were signed. I know because the clerk mailed me the final decree. North Carolina requires notice to judgment creditors. Dad and Mom downsized to a 2-bedroom apartment off Old Wake Forest Road. The Lexus is gone. Mom's real estate license lapsed. Dad took early retirement with a reduced pension after the company restructured his division. They never reached out. I never expected them to. Ridge moved to Charlotte, took a lower-paying sales job, lives in a 1-bedroom he rents by the week. Tatum went back to Tennessee. Last I heard, through a mutual acquaintance who didn't know better, she was serving at the same country club her parents belonged to. I bought a small condo in North Raleigh with cash from the settlement, close enough to work, far enough from every memory. Aunt Susan is the only relative still on my holiday card list. Everyone else is blocked on every platform, every number, every account. If something happens to them, I'll read it in an obituary like anyone else. People sometimes ask if I feel guilty. I don't. I learned what family actually means. It isn't endless sacrifice with no questions asked. It isn't one child existing to fund another's lifestyle. Family is boundaries. Family is accountability. Family is choosing every day who deserves a place in your life, blood or not. I chose peace. I chose the version of myself they never thought I'd become. I chose to close the door they opened when they decided my future was theirs to spend. And I never looked back. Thanks for sticking with me through this whole story. If it hit home, drop a like, leave a comment, and I'll see you in the next one. If you've ever been told that setting boundaries makes you selfish, please know that your feelings are valid. Many people are raised to believe that protecting themselves means disappointing the people they love. Yet healthy boundaries are not walls built to push others away. They are quiet promises that your dignity, your dreams, and your peace deserve to be protected. You have the right to be respected. You have the right to say no without carrying unnecessary guilt. You have the right to expect honesty, fairness, and kindness from the people who are closest to you. Wanting a better life for yourself is not selfish. It is an expression of self-worth. Taking care of yourself does not compete with loving your family. In reality, every healthy relationship begins with mutual respect. When you value your own emotional well-being, you become more capable of offering genuine care, healthy support, and lasting compassion to others. Perhaps your journey has been different from Greer's. Perhaps your story is still unfolding today. Whatever chapter you are living, remember that healing is rarely found in winning an argument. It is found in choosing peace, protecting your future, and believing that your value never depends on someone else's approval. If this story reminded you of your own experience, we invite you to share it in the comments. Your words may become the encouragement another person needs today, and together we can build a community where dignity, accountability, and hope continue to grow. Thank you sincerely for staying with us until the very end. If you found comfort or inspiration in this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and explore more meaningful stories through the videos linked in the description. Always remember, protecting your peace is never selfish. It is one of the most important choices you can make for yourself and for every healthy relationship you build.